The reality is, all of these sites seem to hate me whenever I share anything about my poetry or my own books. I share something and I'm talking about political commentary, anybody else's work or TV shows or anything like that, and everybody sees it. But if I share anything about the things that I do, we have a little bit of a problem. And I would really like to share my talents more. I'm constantly, honestly, sharing them with you all, but because of that, I've decided I'm going to read a little bit from this one right here, which is my newest release. It came out in May. It's been a couple of months now, so, maybe go pick it up and read it for yourself, but I'm going to read a little bit for you now, okay? Of Masters and Slaves by Cy Marie Johnson. Chapter 3, Discovery. There was an achiness lurking within her bones as Natalia lifted her head to view around the clearing. "Lydia," she murmured, seeing nothing but a thick fog as it blanketed the grass beneath her. An instant fear seized Natalia's heart, and she knew without a doubt that she had made a grave mistake in bringing her sister to the old stones. She rose quickly, gathering her damp cloak and her body as she peered over the stone. It had been out, possibly even a full day, and Natalia knew it was the wee hours of the morning, and the coolness of the air that had roused her. The sound of crunching across the earth brought Natalia's attention back toward the hills and the sun rising above them. In the distance, a woman she instantly recognized emerged, seemingly making a beeline directly for the old stones and Natalia herself. Sucking in a breath, Natalia closed her eyes and readied herself for the worst, for in truth, there was nothing more frightening to her than the wrath of her queen mother, Rhiannon. "What are you doing here?" came her voice when she finally paused to stand before Natalia. "Where is your sister?" came her next question, just as Natalia expected. The tone that slid past her lips surprised her, for it seemed to belong to another, less brave woman, but Natalia knew the words spoken were hers. "I know not, mother. I have only just arisen," she muttered, her eyes rising to meet Rhiannon's cold sadness she couldn't yet put into words. Rhiannon lifted her head and narrowed her eyes quickly, giving her curt nod. "And you came with the passing of the comet before the moon, did you not?" she asked. The accusation in her voice was undeniable. Natalia knew there would be much for her recompense. "Mother, I don't remember," she murmured, knowing the truth of her broken memories was not enough to save her from the unpardonable offense of disobeying her parents and losing her baby sister. "And so my warnings of the old stones, danger, were not enough for your wickedly curious mind, daughter? Walk the circle with me. Let's see what we can uncover," Rhiannon stated, turning to continue toward the circle of stones where everything had changed. "Mother, why can you not tell me direct? What is this magic?" Natalia muttered, doing her best to catch up to Rhiannon, who was now several strides ahead of her, her blood-red tresses sweeping out from beneath her heavy cloak as she moved on. She paused suddenly and turned to wave over the stones, shaking her head as a north wind blew across the meadow. The grasses, long as they were, appeared to dance to and fro like an ancient courting practice between the unseen and the seen. Privileged to be seen by few, and yet many in one motion. "Natalia, you are no longer the daughter I bore, but a child of the stars. Come, look what I have found," she remarked, eyes dashing to the ground as she pointed toward the earth. Natalia approached in silence, tendrils of her hair blowing across her face as she peered down at the ground. In the earth, the remnants of a tattered cloak were pierced through to the ground by a broken arrow that jutted just out of the dark peat. Instantly, Natalia recognized the color of the cloth. It was a piece of Lydia's cloak, the very one that Natalia had reminded her to don that day. "She was taken, but she is alive," Rhiannon said, "and you will be sent to collect her," she muttered, looking Natalia directly in the eyes as she pulled the arrow from the ground. "First we go before your father to discuss the severity of your quest." Yes, mother, was all that emerged from Natalia's lips, as if all the other words had been stripped in an instant. She couldn't argue, not after seeing her sister's cloak. The last thing she had seen in her inn, pinned to the ground. Steps were made in haste as Rhiannon approached the village, her boots crunching across the frozen terrain with Natalia at her heels, head bowed as if she were destined to be walking the trek of shame. The burden of her mistake was nearly unimaginable, and she still had no understanding of what had overtaken her, and left her unable to protect or defend the little sister she had been caring for all these years. A silence had overtaken the village that morning, and Natalia could almost feel the creeping stares of her people as she made her way into the main longhouse where her father was known to sup with his men. She exhaled deeply, drawing in a deep breath, and with it shattered bits of courage she had previously donned so well. The door creaked open, and immediately Natalia's eyes fell upon the large beast of a dog that had been hers and Lydia's main guard for so long. "Fenrir," Natalia muttered, reaching her hand out to the dog. He nuzzled his hand against her fingers, darting his tongue outward to flick across her knuckles as she walked by. The action from the dog brought a tiny bit of peace to Natalia's heart, but she knew from the expression upon her father's face he was sorely displeased. "Natalia," King Eric began, his deep and boisterous voice filling the room in its entirety, echoing off every beam on board that held the place together, and sending a shiver of intimidation down Natalia's spine. "Good morn, father." Natalia's humble voice slipped from her lips. "It is my understanding that you were found amongst the old stones this day, without your sister. Is this true?" he asked. Natalia could feel those stares again, her voice catching in her throat as she replied. "Yes, it is true," she said. "Before we discuss how we will fix this mistake, I ask you to give me your recount. Pray tell, what were you doing, and what befell you within these stones?" King Eric demanded in a questioning tone. "The arrow had the shadow of the wolf emblem upon it, my lord," Rhiannon interjected, holding up the broken arrow out to her husband as she looked back down upon her daughter. "Natalia of Adeliz, your king has demanded a response. What say you?" King Eric said again. Natalia swallowed harshly, lifting her head and gathering the same bravery she had when venturing off to see the comet. "I am the eldest daughter of a sage priestess. Generations and generations of daughters have been chosen for my place. My birthright drove me forward, the common obligation," Natalia said, unsure of where these words were coming from, for her most certainly they could not have been hers. Never before had she ever spoken against her mother's wishes, but the words spoken were like a spear of piercing truth as it shattered into her mother's chest. Natalia could see the change in her understanding as her expression morphed into a shocked and bewildered face. "She is a Volva," Rhiannon muttered, the realization setting in as she looked over her daughter. "Just as I suspected. She is a child of the stars now," she said. King Eric tilted his head, and lifting his hands he hushed his wife. "Enough! Let her speak, wife," he announced. "I do not recall much, my lord. I recall the comet making way over the old stones, stepping into them, and calling Lydia to my side, where it felt safest," Natalia explained. "What next?" King Eric asked. A glowing light, the color of the sky, split the heavens and entered the center of the stones. Lydia's face was filled with fright, and she turned away. "And I recall nothing further," Natalia admitted. Rhiannon pursed her lips in agitation. "A Volva! You know what this is, daughter?" she asked. "A shaman, a witch," Natalia replied. "The stones are upon a hallowed and ancient ground, Natalia. The comet passes over it once every generation, but only once in a 1,000-year reign will a Volva be enticed to the stones," Rhiannon explained. "And in that 1,000th season, after 8,000 cycles, will two sisters be born, a child of the stars and a child of the seas." Rhiannon quieted suddenly, looking to her husband, who frowned at her words. "We know nothing of her being a Volva. She has not yet shown power of such warranting. We know that Lydia was taken by the shadow of the Wolf clan. And that is what we will engage. We will not go chasing after the old ways when nothing has given cause to," he stated. We will organize a party to go with Natalia. Fenrir will be sent with her on the scent